Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Courtside Soundoff podcast. Once again, I'm Josh Evanoff. As always, welcome by the one and only man of the hour, too sweet to be sour, future Jiu-Jitsu champion, Angel Ortega. A lot of stuff to talk about this week. Obviously, we got UFC to go over, Bellator to go over, some news to talk about, as well as PFL's World Championships and the end of their 2022 season. Before we get into all that, as always, we do have a couple of sponsors. We are brought to you by Rogue Energy. If you want 10% off your order at rogueenergy.com, use the code SOUNDOFF at checkout. That's code SOUNDOFF at checkout for 10% off of all your energy needs. They keep me fueled going through the work day, and they always keep me motivated to go to the gym, stuff like that. And then you can, obviously holidays are coming up, Christmas is coming up. Go ahead and buy someone something with code SOUNDOFF at 10% off. But at the same time, if you're looking for something on the opposite end of the spectrum, something to chill you out, ELYXR.com. ELYXR is currently one of the leading distributors of Delta 8, 9, and 10 products. The lab-tested products include vapes, gummies, joints, gels, and other things. Please check your local laws in order to ensure that you're in a state where ELYXR can ship to you. Friends of the Courtside Soundoff podcast, ELYXR is allowing 10% off with the code SOUNDOFF at checkout. I can personally attest to ELYXR's high-quality Delta 8 as well as other products. Angel, I know that we talked about them in the past as well. You can also attest. So, yeah, fantastic products, you know. But, and once again, code SOUNDOFF for both for 10% off of both, and we would greatly appreciate it, and they would as well. But, look, Angel, I mean, kind of weird, UFC card last week, UFC Vegas 65 went down with UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada, a makeshift main event, and, on paper, I feel probably the worst main event in a long time. But that's on paper, and in all actuality, the fight was actually pretty fun. In the new main event, obviously Derek Lewis fell out on fight due to illness. Kennedy and Njoku taking on Cutelaba. That first round, I mean, it was a rough one for Kennedy. Let's go on. The worst thing for Kennedy since 1963 in Dallas is all I'm going to say. That first round was rough for Kennedy. But in the second round, man, I mean, he got rocked. Ion Cutelaba controlled him, got the back, but then in round two, Kennedy comes out firing, lands a knee, gets a TKO win after a flurry of punches. Look, dude, biggest win of his career thus far. It was super impressive, and honestly, for a makeshift main event, this fight was a lot of fun. Give me your thoughts about it.
I mean, look, obviously they had a lot of pressure on them to have to make up for the main event loss, but they were still commenting, right? So even then, they had pressure on them to do well, right? But they weren't the main event, you know, they weren't the headline, and they came out and did what they had to do. We picked both Cutelaba, which I think at the time, looking at it in the first round, would look solid. But I mean, we know Cutelaba in the first round is super fucking dangerous. But I thought with Kennedy having some troubles and, you know, at times and being able to be pressured and shit, and especially the kind of fighter Cutelaba is, I was like, he could get him out of there in the first round. So I picked him. It looked like a decent option at the time, but at the same time, Cutelaba kind of, you know, fades. And credit to Kennedy, I mean, he like you said, he turned it back around. He mentally recovered, got that knee that did some massive damage and ended up getting the finish, like you said. And it was another solid win. And like, he's one of those guys who's very honest with himself. You know, I think he said he's like, I'm still learning on the job. I still got a lot to do. And he's absolutely right. You know what I mean? He still has a ways to go, but he could be a problem if he decides to take it upon himself to continue improving and take this shit serious. And he is taking it serious, I think. And I think we could have a guy who potentially at some point could be a big challenge for anybody in this light heavyweight division. And he's one of those guys that I think we've had our eye on. You know, people have kept their eye on him. But he definitely still has a lot of growth. He has a lot of improvement to do, and he's far from a finished product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the thing about Kennedy is that we've always known that, like, his size for the division is a massive fucking problem. Like, the dude is, 6'5", an 83-inch reach? That's literally John Jones' numbers. I'm pretty sure John is 83 and a half. Like, and he was a young dude when he came into the UFC. I believe he was like, what? He came into the UFC 2018, so he would have been...
With a smaller record,
26? Too. Huh?
With a smaller record, too, at the time.
Yeah, he's 6-0. And he actually first fought in the Contender Series when he was 3-0. So he's been around the UFC since he was 25. And he had that length and he had the size that he couldn't really put it all together. I mean, the Judd knockout was really, really rough. Big setback. But those last 2 fights, he's put things together. He knocked out Carl Roberson. And then this win here, I mean, like, if he can put it all together, he's going to be a problem. And he seems to be putting it all together. He's only 30, so he has a lot. He still has a fair bit of time. Mm-hmm. And especially considering the fact that he was so young when he came into the UFC, he's been around in the game for a while now. He's still getting better, and he's still relatively inexperienced. Like, he's 30, but has not had a lot of fights. So, yeah, man, I mean, hey, solid win for him. Solid win for him. And ultimately moving on, and didn't get ranked or anything like that, but hey, I mean, first UFC main event win. Good for him.
Do you think he's deserving of a ranked opponent next?
I'd say so. I mean,
I think he has potential to beat some of the guys. Probably, I don't have the list in front of me, but just guessing maybe 11 and down. But I feel like a lot of maybe even like the top half of the top 15, like the middle part, like let's say like 12 and up could give him some trouble. Still, I think he still needs a fair bit of time. But I mean, let's say he does get a ranked opponent. Who would you like to see him fight? Just as a curiosity, because I think we need to make the best of this situation with this main event and kind of talk about, you know, the winner going forward a little bit more, just to, you know, see his options.
I agree, and I think the fight to make is probably Dustin Jacoby.
That's a hard one.
He's ranked 15, and yeah, I know it's a hard one, but I mean, if you look at the rest of the division, I believe you mentioned like 11 through 15. 11, Johnny Walker. 12, Dom Reyes, who, you know, we'll see what happens there. Khalil Roundtree, 13, Jimmy Crute, 14, and Dustin Jacoby, 15. Of those matchups, I would probably like to see the Dustin Jacoby one the most, but I'd honestly be cool with probably any of those.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard division, man. I mean, he has a tough time. I mean, you know, he could beat some of these guys. You know, I mean, they're just gonna be very hard fucking fights, and he needs to be tested soon.
I agree, and I think he will be. But we'll see what happens to him moving forward. Like I said, huge win for him, and probably should get a ranked opponent next. As far as the rest of the card goes, man, obviously we didn't preview this co-main event, but Waldo Cortez Acosta getting a win over Chase Sherman, unanimous decision, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. Disappointing one for Chase. Obviously, he's coming off that fantastic knockout or Jared Vanderoff in July. I thought it was a huge win for him, and he looked really, really good. Seemed to be taking some steps forward. Rough night at the office for him, though, in this one. What do you think about that fight?
Look, it's hard, man. I mean, we have a guy here who's now 4-10 in the promotion, but with the lack of heavyweights, you know, available in MMA and the talent pool, you know, you have to keep guys around like Chase Sherman, who at times can perform and put up, and he's very tough. You know, I think he's too tough for his own good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll put it like this. Chase Sherman as a fighter is unquestioned. You know, like if we talk about the term and what it means to be a fighter, I think he has that. You know, if we're talking in the sport aspect, he struggles. You know, and you know, and that happens. You know, not everybody's to be a superstar, not everybody's to be amazing. I do hope for his sake, though, they keep him around, and they have been. You know, they've let him go, brought him back, but they realized that he has value to them in the sense of he's kind of a down guy. He's down to fight. You know. I do hope that he does, you know, something, and I know it's very late into the career, to find some improvements, man. You know, this is a constantly learning sport, and I think I want to see some growth in him, and you know, see if he can maybe turn around and get some wins, get to show his value and show, hey, you know, I have this potential. You know, at one point I had so many X wins in a row. You know, I can get back to that. But, you know, to talk about the winner a little bit more, I mean, credit, man, on short notice. I think it was like maybe not even a month since we saw him last time out. I think it was like 2 weeks, you know, which is awesome that a guy's so down, and especially a heavyweight, you know, who doesn't have to cut weight. It could just be like, you know, I'm ready to go. You know, I'm in shape, and he did it. You know, that's incredible. The Dominican, lots of volume. Again, I think he had. I don't think last time out he did a lot of volume, but he did what he had to do, and he got the win. I think this is a guy who has potential to the 65 division. I think he still has a ways to go, but at heavyweight, you know, it's kind of wide open, man, because if you get him going and you keep it going, you could get up into the top 15 and get some big names pretty fast. And I think he could potentially get some nice dubs at a heavyweight.
I agree. I thought this was a good one for him. Just to kind of redirect the conversation back to Chase real quickly, because I'm a big fan of the guy. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned what do you say his record was? 4-10 in the UFC?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a rough record. But at the same time, though, the reason why he's around is because that motherfucker, you mentioned it, he'll fight anyone at any given time. I mean, he was cut after the Jake Collier loss. They brought him back because nobody wanted to fight Alexander Romanov on like a week's notice. He did it. He stepped up. And
respect, by the way, because that fight made no sense, but they needed a replacement.
He was the biggest underdog in UFC history. The biggest. So, yeah, I mean, full props to him. The dude stepped up, and he took this fight on short notice as well, I hope he sticks around in the game. I hope he doesn't get cut, because, dude, like, win, lose, or draw. Can you look at Chase Sherman's record and tell me any boring fight he's been in the UFC? Like, I literally from what I remember, all of his fights have been relatively entertaining. The Waldo Acosta one, I thought that we just watched that one. Thought that was pretty fun, Jared Vanderall, that was a banger, and he looked great in that one. Romanov, he got finished early, but it happens. Kate Collier, same thing. Parker Porter and the Andre Arlovski fights I thought were fun. He knocked out Ike Villanueva. Like he's had some fun moments. So I hope he sticks around in the game. As far as Waldo Cortez Acosta goes, interesting prospect, dude. He's very, very young in his career. Like age-wise, he's 31, but like only 9-0. Like he second UFC fight was this one. So we'll see what happens. This guy has a lot of potential though.
He has an AMI record, and he did some boxing.
Yeah, and he's huge for the division. Not huge necessarily, but like 6'4", 80-inch range. Like, dude has some potential. So we'll see what happens there with him. As far as the rest of the card goes, man, what are some fights you're most looking forward to talking about? This card was like, honestly, this card turned out really, really well considering like the names that were on there.
There was a lot of like good performances and some good finishes. I mean, Ricky Tercios is one we had to name. Vanessa Demopoulos came back. Obviously, she's been kind of a hot commodity recently with her personality. And
that's a way to put it.
I know, right? It's in her celebrations.
Yeah, she's fun though.
But Solikov, Andre Fiallo. I mean, once again, we got to give credit to Andre Fiallo. One of the most active guys this year. 2-3 in the promotion, but I mean, like super short notice fights. I mean, there's a first fight he's taken where he had a nice break in between, but Solikov was a tough out, man. You know what I mean? And Solikov got him with a sick spinning back kick, which, I mean, shit. I mean, we know that, I think I brought it up. I was like, Solikov has some sick kicks. I think I said it on the podcast. And
yeah,
he showed it off. And, Jack Della Madonna, who we mentioned. My pronunciation was not good, I'll say that. But we mentioned on the previous podcast, and another sick finish out of him, man. I mean, he's one of those guys where I think you look at him and you're like, fuck, this guy looks like, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who'd be knocking fuckers out, But he's gotten finishes. I think every fight he's had has been a finish. In his 3 fights in the UFC at 26 years old, this Australian kid from Perth, who I had no idea about him before he got to the UFC, is killing it. And I mean, he came into the UFC with a decision win against Ang Lusa, which I think actually ended up being a banger of a fight. I haven't gone back and watched it. He actually named it as one of his favorite fights on the Humanizing Fighters series that I can't remember the guy who does it, Josh, on Instagram and Twitter, if we do want to credit him real quick. But he mentioned that. So I'm assuming it's a banger. But no, I mean, Jack's looking like a little problem, man, and he's getting the wins together. They've given him, and his competition went up from Pete Rodriguez because he was supposed to fight Worley August, right? And Pete Rodriguez was like, okay, good win, but Pete's like 4-0, came in short notice, didn't seem like maybe he could give some problems, but I didn't think he was going to. They gave him some 2 guys with big, like very much bigger records to him, and he got them both out of there. In the first round. All of his fights ended in the first round. So at some point we could see Jack getting a nice little push, man. I mean, he just turned 26 this year, and I mean, he has 10, 11 more years in the sport, potentially 12, depending how he goes with his career. And I think he's gotten some bonuses too. So he's killing it, man. I mean, he's doing it the right way, and he's changed his life.
Mm-hmm. For sure, man. And you mentioned a couple of guys there, so I'm going to go and try to hit him best I can. Muslim Salikov, you mentioned him and his knockout win over Andre Fiallo. dude, Muslim Salikov, like, at the age of 38, like, in that third round, actually, just randomly decided, all right, I'm gonna start throwing some spinning shit. I'm gonna start doing some crazy shit. Like, at his age, for him to be as, like, he's a veteran of the game, they're almost 40 fucking years old, for him to just turn that on, flip that switch, is something you don't see too often in the game. And I think that deserved a lot more credit than what he actually got for that one. But, solid win by him. You mentioned Vanessa Diamopoulos. She's like she's like somebody I would have never picked to be like, how can I phrase this? Be relevant in MMA. How about that? That's a good way to put it. She's 34 years old. Was on the verge of being cut. I mean, she got signed, I believe, on like short notice to face JJ Aldridge and lost. Then she's rattled off 3 straight wins. And she's had like, she's done well the entire time, made her name with great post-fight interviews, just being like a fun personality. So props to her. And then also Jack Della Maddalena, dude. Excellent win over Dana Roberts. Dana Roberts is a dog, dude. And he's a guy that, like, in a firefight, you don't want to get into. Like, tons of power, very proficient on the feet. But Jack Della Maddalena beat the dog shit out of him. Like, that was shocking how easy that was. There are other big wins. Ricky Tercios, our boy, picking up a win. Miles Johns defeating Vince Morales. Jennifer Maia defeating Marina Moroz. I do want to go back real quickly to the Miles Johns situation, because it kind of gives us an update on the situation. Did you hear why that was a big one for Miles Johns, but also he did not have James Krause in the corner. Were you aware of that, Angel?
No, wait, what? So he wasn't in... Okay.
Okay.
Go.
So I'm glad that this is fun for me to break news to you. So apparently the day before the fight, the UFC pulled James Krause from the card as a coach. They told him they revoked his credentials. And then the day after that, New Jersey announced that they're no longer allowing people to take bets on anything involving James Krause. They're the only ones to do it thus far, but that's probably a sign that things are going to keep on getting worse for him. In regards to the whole betting situation.
I wonder if they've found something out.
Yeah, it does not look good. I'll put it like that. Obviously, I don't have any inside information. I'm just giving my own take on it, but if you guys have not followed, we're still talking about the situation involving James Krause and Derek Minner, where Derek came in with an injury, did not disclose it. Betting lines flipped dramatically hours before the fight, and both of them are under investigation, and now they pulled James Krause from anything involving coaching, and obviously we know that he's being investigated by New Jersey, obviously, and now also, well, we already knew he's under investigation in Nevada, but obviously now also New Jersey. So, yeah, it's not looking good for James Krause right now, man. Which is kind of a shame. It's really shitty, because I thought that he was kind of emerging as like a really... I don't know.
You know something,
Yeah.
We're far from this, and
Yeah,
this
right.
is something that we need to bring up. This could mean that he might not be in Brazil for the Brandon Moreno quadrilogy.
Yeah. Well, who even knows if he'll be allowed to coach anymore if the way things are going.
Yeah, I don't know. So there's a lot that needs to get cleared up. I'm
Because
sure.
If he's legitimately under investigation for like fight fixing, he might be going to fucking jail. So,
Yeah. Which
yeah,
we hope not, right? Nothing's official yet. We want to make the best out of the situation, right? And we want to speak well on people, innocent until proven guilty, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could have just been it could just be a very shitty situation where when he's involved, he's involved with this guy, he fights, he likes to bet on fights, and it just looks, weird from that perspective, but there could be no fuckery,
Yeah, of course. And we'll keep the situation updated, but Miles Johns I don't even think he just kind of said it nonchalantly, and everybody was like, oh, like during his post-fight interview, he's like, oh yeah, they pulled my coach on Friday, like said they took away his credentials. I'm like, oh shit, really? Like, thanks, Miles. That gives us a bit of an update, but, yeah, man. I mean, any other closing thoughts on this card before we move on to Bellator?
I mean, look, I think the card was very weak name value wise, but when you look at it, it legitimately wasn't a bad event. Let's be honest with ourselves and let's everybody say it. I think people are going to try to talk shit on it. But look, if you really look at it, the card was not bad. Be honest with each other. We've definitely had street cards. Was the main event something big, special? No. I mean, Derek Lewis and was it Spivak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would have been an awesome addition, but sadly, we missed out, and that's just as that thing goes. And this card did suffer. I mean, this card had William Knight, Marcian Pacquiao at one point, Derek Lewis, Sergey Spivak, obviously, Cody Brennan, Rodolfo Vieira, Jack Schwarber, Kyler Phillips, which would have been a banger, too. So it lost some names, but it ended up still being good for what it was.
Mm. Yeah, I'd say it was honestly a way better card than I expected it to be. It was a lot of fun. So, yeah, I mean, obviously it was a lot of fun, but it was not the only MMA that happened last weekend. Because Bellator 288 happened the night before, I believe, in the Wintrust Arena in Chicago, Illinois. 2 title fights. I will say one went about the way we expected. The other one, though, hell of a fight, dude. Vadim Nemkov putting on probably the best performance of his career, especially considering the opposition. Defeating Corey Anderson, 48-47, 49-46, 49-46, read the scorecards. What a fucking win, dude. What a win for Vadim Nemkov. Especially the way after the first fight went, being massively doubted, for him to come from behind and pull that off was not necessarily to come from behind, but for him to kind of be the underdog and to come out and put on a performance like that, just completely nullify Corey Anderson's takedowns in his wrestling game. Especially as an underdog, truly incredible performance. What do you think about him pulling off the win at Bellator 288?
I'm not surprised, motherfuckers, but let me get into that a little bit more. Look, at the time, with the previous fight, there was the whole situation going on with Russia and all that. We're not going to get into the politics of that and all that, but there was, if you're aware, you're aware, and you should be.
Yeah, I don't know how you're not aware.
Right. But
where the fuck are you guys? Like, come
on. Josh, you'd be surprised. Some people are ignorant as fuck. I had times been not aware of shit. You know what I mean? But, to get into it a little bit, yeah, I mean, that was a talk, that had happened with a lot of the Russian fighters. There's a lot of situations out there with not being able to get them on flights and shit. Cause that was going on around that time, right? If I believe so.
Yeah, correct.
There was some sort of tension at the time. I could be completely wrong here, but we had that going on. And obviously we know Nemkov has been known to at least go and Fedor and them to go to the Olympic center and train with the Russian wrestling athletes before in previous times. And I mean it's no secret people have done this many of times and gone to colleges. MMA fighters have done this. And it showed, man, he completely nullified the wrestling. I mean, there was no takedown done. He prevented every single takedown, and that must have been the biggest mental fuck in the world for Corey Anderson. But I'll tell you what, great to Corey Anderson, right? He kept trucking along and trying to get it. He did not give up on it. He was trying to make Nemkov work for it. But Nemkov was slick. He was avoiding it. He was, spitting out of shit. His counter wrestling was solid. And, shit on the feet, he was doing work too. I mean, I think he dropped Corey in the first round.
Yeah.
I remember it, right?
With a head kick, I believe.
Yeah, which, I mean, that in and of itself, I mean, Corey had to rally back and just shake off the cobwebs as he come back. I mean, that's another thing you credit him. And that was amazing, obviously him sticking in it afterwards and mentally recovering and physically recovering too. And I mean, Corey's place in this division is at a great spot in Bellator. I mean, he's undoubtedly, and it's no secret right now, one of the best light heavyweights on the planet. I mean, it's sad to an extent, right, that he's not in the UFC, but he's still doing his thing in another promotion that has a very strong 205 division as well. And the 205 division, I think, is still growing because, I mean, we've seen some of their big guys get some wins and losses recently that we didn't expect, like Yags and Carlo Braxton, who just took a big loss that came out of nowhere. At least that I didn't think would happen. And yeah, no, I mean, to talk about the Bellator 205 division as a whole, I wanted to mention that. But Nemkov, I mean, this is what I expected, Josh. This is what I thought what would happen. I thought Corey Anderson was going to struggle for takedowns, and I thought it would be. I thought that at one point, Nemkov would have to deal with some adversity, and if he did end up on the ground, if he did end up on bottom for some reason, but it never happened. He completely nullified that option.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I was so impressed with that win. I mean, you went ahead and I think you laid it out pretty perfectly there, but for him to kind of, he's facing Corey Anderson, who I think, for whatever reason, I feel like MMA fans they never give Corey Anderson his due. Like, I think before this fight, you can make a goddamn really good case that he was the greatest 205-pound fighter on the planet. Like, he beat Bader, he beat Johnny Walker, Latifi, Teixeira,
former champ.
Jan Blachowicz.
Former champ.
Yeah, former champ. Like, Melvin Manhoff. Like, he beat all these guys, and he was on his way to beating Nemkov in the first fight. Until that clash ahead. So for Vadim Nemkov to go back to the well, to improve, train his ass off, to come out here and just drop him in the first round, outstrike him, like out-grapple him, just fucking incredible, man. Like, I was so impressed. Yeah. I mean, just an excellent win for him. And Corey Anderson, man, like, I think he said it, but he's not in a bad place in this division. I could easily see these guys fighting a third time, especially depending on how a fight goes next February, which we'll talk about in the news section. And shit, maybe Corey Anderson could even get on that card and get a win and be in the right position for the trilogy. Because I think most people this fight was close, even given the fact that Corey really struggled with the wrestling and did not have his greatest night out there. So, which is obviously due to Vadim Nemkov's success, but you see my point. But, yeah, man, hell of a win. And we know who Vadim Nemkov will face next, and we'll talk about that in probably half an hour. But as far as the co-main event goes, dude, pretty much will be expected. Now, I think most people were hoping that Patricky Pitbull could put up a better showing, and full credit to him. He had some moments. I mean, not really on offense, but on defense, he had some good, defensive moments, especially in the grappling. But overall, dude, I mean, Usman Nurmagomedov dominates. Wins the title 50-45, 50-44, 50-44 on the scorecard. It's not even close. I mean, tell me what you thought about this one.
Shutout, man. He pushed the shutout. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we expected, I think. Let's be honest,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously the name adds a lot. Let's be honest with ourselves, Josh. I mean, that is a big thing. We think, you think that, you see that name, you already have assumptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But shit, the results are there. The game doesn't lie. In the words of Hans Niemann from chess, the chess doesn't lie. The chess speaks for itself. So, so to kind of put it like that, I mean, the performance speaks for itself. It was dominant. And he didn't get to finish. I think he was really trying to look for it. He really wanted it. But it just goes to show how tough Patricky is as a fighter, man. I mean, he didn't get finished. I mean, and a lot of guys before him didn't get finished. So that shows something. And I'll put it like this, and it's something that I think a lot of fighters in this division need to think about is Usman is good, but just like anybody, and all these guys are undefeated, he's still human. Anybody can beat him, and I think this 155 division in Bellator has some names that could give this man some trouble. Believe me, guys, when I tell you, do not think that Usman Nurmagomedov will reign this division in Bellator for its whole existence. Mm-hmm. So don't. I think some people might see that name, see the undefeated record, and be discouraged, and might be like, it's not gonna be interesting. It's not gonna be boring. He went to a decision. No. Watch this division. It will be entertaining. He will have some tough fights, and he's gonna have to deal with a lot of adversity going forward because Bellator is picking up some fighters in their 155 division. There's some real motherfuckers.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Absolutely. I mean, that division, I feel like the Bellator's 155-pound division at one point was kind of like, it was their legacy division. I mean, they had Michael Chandler, obviously Eddie Alvarez, the Pitbull brothers, both of them there at one point. But the last few years, that division has just, Benson's gotten older. I didn't mention him, but Benson Henderson was there, obviously. Chandler left. Alvarez left like a long time ago. Patricky's gotten older. Patricio's moved down, decided to stay at 145. The 155-pound division has been struggling for a while, but I think now they're in a position where it is rapidly improving. Mm-hmm. Especially Tafik Masayev coming up. They have another couple of other young monsters. Islam Mamedov lost, I know, to Benson.
Shabli.
He'll be back. Same. Yeah, Shabli would be back. So, I mean, that division's in a good place right now, and Usman pitched a shutout like we expected, but I don't know how. I think there's a damn good chance he's not holding that title forever. Like, I don't think he's gonna have a Habib style run. I mean, Usman's very, very good, but I feel like he's never shown me that kind of next level killer instinct that maybe, Habib had or even, Islam has. So I don't think he's unbeatable by any metric. But overall, though, hell of a win. And if you're gonna go out there and win the title, that's the way you want to do it. I mean, to beat the champion every single round is just ridiculously easy. Hell of a performance by him. As far as the rest of the card goes, man, I think we kind of all knew this card was extremely top heavy, but what are some of the other fights you want to talk about?
Man, this one surprised me, but I also had doubts going into this fight. Tyrell Fortune, Josh, losing to Daniel James.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Daniel James is a 40-year-old man, but dude.
You believe.
I believe, and I'm looking at it now, he is 40 on the dot. He's about to turn 41 on the 31st, so, New Year's birthday. Beautiful, right? But he's been a guy who's a veteran game. He fought in LFA. He was in ACA, which is a very tough promotion to be in, but and lost a lot there, but got some nice wins over time, and then got the opportunity in Bellator, and he got the win over Tyrell Fortune. Josh, it's crazy. I want to say I was surprised, but I wasn't surprised because I'm not gonna lie. I thought about betting, and I was going to do a parlay of Nemkov, Usman, and Tyrell Fortune, but I'm like, I have a weird feeling because I'm like, Daniel James could come out here and upset Tyrell Fortune. I had some fear in me because I'm like, this guy carries some power. He's got that old man strength. He's 6'6". He's very big. He has a reach advantage, and he came out here and fucking performed. I mean, what a fucking Cinderella story.
Mm. Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm glad you highlighted that one, dude. And I know that a lot of people kind of took they took the stance that they don't like sometimes, and there's like a big upset. They're like, oh man, Tyrell Fortune, like this he's a bit of a failed prospect. He's this, he's that. I'm like, dude, like I'm just happy for Daniel James. I mean, for him to be like you mentioned, 40 years old. Obviously, he's huge for his weight class, but he's a guy that doesn't have a stellar record. This is his Bellator debut. He's lost to a lot of. I mean, dude, his record going in was fucking 13-6-1. You don't expect
not terrible.
Not terrible, but also there's a reason why this is his Bellator debut, and he's 40, and numbers don't lie, and he really probably should have lost this one. But guess what? He goes out there and he gets a huge win, and he beats a relatively decent prospect, a Bellator contender. So, fucking awesome story, dude. Like that's legitimately awesome. But yeah, I mean, overall, the rest of the card, I mean, there were some good moments. I mean, Daniel Weichel came up short, and he lost to another young guy. Obviously, this is the one that's featherweight. Timur Kajirev, 11-0, very young kid. So, I mean, that's another prospect there for Bellator. Yeah, I mean, overall, solid night of fights. Not a whole lot of huge names on the undercard. Sullivan Colley got a huge win, though.
Yeah, it was like prospect heavy.
Yeah, very prospect heavy. Sullivan Colley, huge knockout win. He was kind of like my big guy that I wanted to see perform in the prelims, and he didn't waste any fucking time. A knockout inside of it. Well, it was a minute and 1 second. So, yeah, man. Excellent win for him there. And overall, pretty fun Bellator card, man. And they're going to be coming back with a banger of an event. Bellator 289, December 9th, at the Mohegan Sun Arena in Connecticut. 2 title fights. And they also got Patchy Mix and Magomedov on there. I mean, just ridiculous. Like the top 3 fights: Rufon Stocks, Danny Sabatello, Carmouche, Velasquez, and Patchy Mix, Magomedov. Bangers, dude. I mean, like in terms of like just pure fights, holy shit.
I mean, the undercard is not bad. I mean, it's weaker, it's smaller names, but they have Dalton Rosa, Denise Keatholtz, Cody Law, Kai Kamaka. There's some class down there, Let's give some credit to the guys down below.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. Yeah, but just like in terms of, I meant more like just like the top of the card.
But I mean, Josh, let's be real. The big event, the big MMA event of the year is it's Bellator Rising.
That one I'm hyped for, man. That one December 31st, end of the year card, man. Like that's gonna be fucking ridiculous.
It's on a Saturday too, perfect for me. I mean, man, I'm excited, man. That's there's a lot riding. I think MMA as a whole has a lot riding on that. Obviously, I think we don't want to talk too much about it now because we talked about it before. But damn, I'm so excited for that to come up because MMA is not going to stop, Josh. It's going to keep going through the year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not going to have any. It's all gas, no brakes. We are there's a lot of stuff going on at the end of the year, man. And you went and highlighted that card. I'm super psyched for that one. I don't want to preview it too much yet because obviously we're going to have to talk about it. And that's like is that the only fight card happening that week? Last week of December?
Probably.
Pretty sure.
I mean,
yeah.
what else? I'm
pretty sure. Yeah, but as far as that card goes, the Bellator 288.
Actually, Josh,
yeah, go ahead.
Cage Warriors 148 and Rising.
Oh, thank God.
48. So there you go.
Yeah,
it's TBR versus TBUSA though. That's pretty cool. So I mean, if that does you anything there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it'll be a fun event and fun week. But yeah, man, I think it's about time to move on because we don't have Bellator, we don't have UFC, we don't have boxing. But you know what we do have, and it's probably the first time we've actually previewed a card from this promotion. PFL 10. It is going to be the finale of the playoffs for all divisions. Everybody getting $1 million if they win their tournament. Going to be also their first ever pay-per-view card on ESPN Plus. I believe it's going to be $50 or $40. I can't remember the exact price point. I know it's not UFC level or anything like that.
It's not terrible, but I also don't think it's great. You know what I mean?
No, I mean the only way I'd only pay for it if like I split it with somebody. I think it's like $50, which is not terrible.
25 is completely reasonable between two dudes, and even then you could split it between more guys.
Yeah, precisely. So it's not terrible, and I'm happy that it's not as expensive as UFC, but I still think like $30 would have been a perfect price point for this. I mean,
like, do you think you would have been okay with $39.99?
I probably would have been cool with that. Or
I mean, because you know they can't go too low. Like I don't think they could have done a $29.99. I think the most they would have gone is probably like the least they would have gone is $39.99 with the $40 price. More because to people $20, you know, not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It is a good. I mean, and let's be honest. If you take away PFL, you put UFC, you pay the price.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'd be more than happy. I mean, I'll be
exactly.
Very honest with you. I mean, it's one of the. I mean, on paper, Josh, MMA pay-per-views, one of the best pay-per-views of the year. Let's not hide it. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as far as the pay-per-view goes, I'll admit, like I said, I'm a little bit somewhere in the middle on it, on the fact that it is a pay-per-view. The price point obviously can use a bit of work, but I mean, as far as the action itself goes, dude, I mean, there is a lot of fights on here that I'm super intrigued by.
Are we gonna choose every tournament winner for shits and giggles?
Oh man, you want to do it?
Fuck it, why not, dude?
All right, well, fuck it. Well, you know what? How about this? We'll only count the main and the co-main for the picks, but we'll still get picks for the rest. How about that?
Oh, you don't want to pick every tournament winner? I was down to pick every tournament winner.
No, I meant like for like the standings that we have.
Oh, okay, I get
We'll
that.
only count the main and the co-main like normal.
Okay.
But we will get picks for the other ones for shits and gigs.
Okay, pussy.
All right, fine. I mean, I'm fucking easily winning, so I mean, we'll just go ahead and
hey, man,
keep on doing your shit picks, dude. It's all right.
Yeah, I made some good picks though.
Yeah, to be fair, we're actually neck and neck.
Really?
I'm only 3 picks above you.
Well, fuck my comeback, right?
Yeah, this could easily flip. So we'll see.
Nemkov was a godly pick, wasn't it?
That was a godly pick. So let's go ahead and start off. I fucking regret. The worst part is I had a feeling too because I fucking love Nemkov, but I was like, I don't know, man. But anyways, let's start off with the main event.
Always go with your gut, bro. I've learned that.
The main event. Kayla Harris, the undefeated judoka, former Olympian, 15-0, multiple-time PFL tournament winner. He's going to be having a trilogy with Larissa Pacheco. Larissa Pacheco, UFC veteran, 28 years young. At this point, I don't think she's really known for her UFC stint, but her time in PFL has been extremely entertaining. She's always been kind of an entertaining fighter, but this season, not even this season too, because last year she had some great moments too. She is on a 5-fight winning streak with all fights ending in the first round by knockout.
I mean, that's unheard of for a female.
That is, for a women's fighter, that's fucking unheard of. That is insane. I know some people are gonna be like, well, she's fighting people that aren't that great, like, but fuck off. Like, come on, dude. Like, you never see anybody do that.
Not even, let's be honest, not even Kayla Harrison has done that.
No, obviously different fight styles and all, but like,
yeah, no, you're right.
yeah, Larissa Pacheco is out here annihilating girls with ease. Like, they're not even getting out of like 3 minutes with her. Like, her last 3 fights have ended all within 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
It's a death sentence right out of fight Larissa Pacheco. And Kayla Harrison too, let's be honest.
Yeah, and they have fought 2 times previously, and Kayla won both fights by unanimous decision. I don't think Larissa even took a round, but they have not fought in 3 years. So a lot's changed since then. Dude, I gotta admit to you, and I said this when this fight was announced, I am psyched for this fight. I am super excited for it. However, I don't see a lot to suggest that this one is going to go, the trilogy fight is going to go any differently than the first 2 fights, even though Larissa Pacheco has made a lot of strides. What are your thoughts about the main event?
I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, all odds are against her, but the thing is, she's having an amazing year. I mean, I don't think she's had another year like super comparable to this. I mean, she's nuked everybody in the first round. And she's fought Kayla before. I mean, she has an idea. She knows the matchup. I mean, and same to Kayla. Kayla knows the matchup. She knows what she brings. She knows what to avoid. But I mean, power's a factor, man. Power is that one game-changing thing, and we talk about it all the time. That's the equalizer. And she has it. She just has to land it. And look, I mean, if she's made some improvements on the ground, and found ways to get out of the positions that Kayla particularly puts her in, and she could avoid those, I mean, anything could happen in that fight, and she could potentially get her out of there. Do I think it will happen? No, I don't. I'm going to be honest with you. But, I mean, we're here to talk about both fighters. We're going to give credit on each end. And in 5 rounds, I mean, anything could happen. We just saw it. I mean, we've seen champs fall this year a lot. Mm-hmm. We've seen new champs be crowned this year and lose in the 5th round in devastating fashion. That is, and it has been the story of this year. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest, in MMA. So, don't be surprised going into that 5th round. Larissa Pacheco comes out of her corner and shocks the world, beats Kayla Harrison, and becomes fighter of the year, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think she's going to be able to pull off the upset? I know you went and said it, that, don't be surprised. I personally won't be, like I said, but.
I won't be surprised if she does it, but I just think it's going to be 3-0, man, in the series. I mean, I just don't think she's going to be able to get it done. It's just a lot riding against her, but the possibility is there. Granted, we say that about every fight, but this year specifically, she was the most dangerous fighter in her division because of what she's done to every girl, every fighter beforehand. I mean, in the first round, she has not gotten outside of the first round. She's taken everybody with ease. Granted, though, that could also be her downfall because she's not gone more than 1 round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. There's a lot of ways to look at it, and let's go ahead and even if she loses this weekend, I want people to give Larissa Pacheco her props, dude. Right now, this is the closest odds that Kayla Harrison has had in a fight since her debut. She's a minus 580, which is pretty crazy. I mean, that's almost 6-1 odds. But Larissa Pacheco she's the first seed because she knocked out everybody in the first round. The first time Kayla Harrison's ever been the 2nd seed or not the 1st seed, you know what I mean, in the PFL tournament. This is the first time that she's having competitive, odds, which is fucking crazy. Like, her first fight, she was minus 560. So, this time she's a minus 580. I mean, you gotta give Larissa Pacheco her props. I would not be surprised if she wins, but I am gonna say Kayla Harrison. I think it's just a bad style matchup for her, dude. I don't think there's anything that she can really do. Because she is huge, she's powerful, she's gained a lot of muscle mass in order to try and improve on the wrestling and to try and be able to out-muscle Kayla Harrison. But, dude, I just think Kayla Harrison just has way too much of an advantage. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, I have a question. If Kayla is to lose here, do you think this takes a lot away from her? Or at least do you think people will? I think people will say stuff like, well, she lost to this Brazilian chick who fights, do you think people will have some thoughts about that?
Here's the reality when it comes to Kayla Harrison. Until she fights in the UFC, nobody will care.
Really? So you think if Kayla Harrison loses here, people won't care?
I think that people are going to shit on her, but I think they'll shit on her if she wins too, so.
I mean, I'll be honest. She loses here. I mean, and look, the only reason I mentioned it is because, I mean, Pacheco is she's on a tear, man. She's 28. I mean, she's young. I mean, she has all the time in the world. I mean, if they fight again, there is a time at some point she could catch her. If you go at it enough, eventually you'll do it, right? Like I say in every fight, you're only human. She's only human, so anything is possible. But I'm just curious if you think that maybe that would drop Kayla's stock a little bit, or would take away. I mean, if anything, I feel like it would motivate Kayla to come back for another tournament season potentially. But I don't know.
I think it would obviously go ahead and it would obviously drop her stock, but to the degree that I don't think she's leaving PFL anytime soon, anyway. So I don't know. It dropped her stock, but not in a substantial way, because I feel like most MMA fans don't really like Kayla Harrison anyway. Like, they're gonna shit on her win, lose, or draw. People really have taken the whole can crushing thing, and they're just like, oh, she's scared of Cyborg or Nunes or yada yada yada. Like, I don't know. Like, I've always said on this podcast in regards to Kayla Harrison, just because you don't know her opponents, and just because they're not in the UFC does not mean they're not good fighters. And she's annihilating. And the same thing for Larissa Pacheco too. They are annihilating these girls in a way that they're legit. Like, they're beating up on these girls. They're clearly not the top of the heap, but a lot of these people were UFC veterans. Like, people for example, Taylin Young, former Invicta title challenger, veteran of the game. There's Pacheco, obviously, fought in the UFC herself, only lost to the best of the best. There are multiple fighters that have had UFC runs or had good stints, and Kayla Harrison and Larissa Pacheco are annihilating these girls. So I really don't think, even if win, lose, or draw, I don't think she'll ever get credit. And same thing for Larissa Pacheco, because if Larissa Pacheco wins, it's like, oh my god, haha, Kayla Harrison lost to a can, even though she's not a can. So, come on, dude. You're gonna tell me that, you don't think Larissa Pacheco could beat. Well, shit, we already know. We already know that she could beat. She already beat Irene Aldana, knocked her out in 2015. She's ranked number 4 in the UFC. Nobody talks about that shit. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Yeah, her stock would drop, but I don't think it'd be substantial. But we're both in agreement. Kayla Harrison probably going to get the win, but who knows, dude? There's particularly shown a lot of strides, but I do have a couple other fights to talk about. Co-main event, the featherweights. Bubba Jenkins taking on Brandon Loughnane. Both of these guys, I've always been super impressed by Bubba Jenkins, and especially his run coming out of Bellator. Because I remember back in Bellator, he was a talented guy, good wrestler, but he would generally fall short. He lost to Georgia Karahani a couple of times. He lost in ACB. He's moved to PFL, and since then he's been unbeaten with except with the exception of one loss to Chris Wade.
Mm-hmm. Which was probably one of his toughest matchups, right? Another wrestler. Oh,
absolutely. And I feel like he's probably, counting his blessings that he's facing Brendan, because Chris Wade lost to him, and if not, you know what I mean? We almost had a rematch in the finale. And Brandon Loughnane, to his credit, UFC veteran, fought in a Contender Series. Kind of stupid he didn't get signed off the Contender Series, because he beat Bill Algeo and did not get signed, even though Bill Algeo got whatever. Talented kid, dude. Talented kid. If you look at his run, obviously he fought in the Ultimate Fighter. His only losses, career losses, Pat Healy, UFC veteran. Pat Healy's been around in the game for fucking ever. It's no shame losing him. Tom Duquesnoy, who's a former didn't Tom Duquesnoy just recently retire or something? Something like that?
Not sure.
But anyways, yeah, he was a great kid. And then a random Russian PFL. So that's the way it goes. This is an excellent fight here. I'm very, very excited for it, and I'm glad they got the co-main spot, because they got a lot of heat on this one. What do you think about this fight?
I think this is probably one of the hardest matchups to pick, man. I think out of all the tournament ones, I think it's probably the closest one. Mm-hmm. Because of the styles, I think Brendan, I think he had some troubles previously in the last year. Looking at that Russian fighter you mentioned was a heavy wrestler-based one, I believe.
Yeah.
And obviously he beat Chris Wade, who, we know his capabilities on the ground. Bubba Jenkins also, a wrestler coming out of college. When he came into the PFL, one of his first matchups was Lance Palmer. He was, Lance Palmer's, his kryptonite when they were wrestling. Lance was wrestling at Ohio, and I believe Bubba was at Arizona, and Bubba used to give Lance hell, and Lance was killing it in the PFL for the longest time, and then bam, and comes Bubba Jenkins, and he beat him. It was I think mentally at the time, it had mentally fucked with Lance Palmer a lot, and he hasn't been able to recover it since then. I mean, he had 3 losses in a row, got 1 win in there in between. Notably, Europeans have struggled a lot with wrestlers. We've seen it, and but I mean, at the same time, Brendan was able to make it work last time around. Bubba at times have made mistakes with his wrestling and stuff like that in fights. I think it's a pick 'em fight, man. I think you go Bubba Jenkins or you go Brendan. I think it really comes down to what Bubba comes out. If he comes out, is doing all the right things and is able to use his wrestling properly and put that kind of pressure on Brendan and make him work for it. It's 5 rounds. I don't think Brendan's ever fought 5 rounds, and the thing is, this might potentially go the full 5 rounds. Because I don't believe in leading up to the main event they fight 5 rounds. They fight 3. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of trouble there too. And I don't know if Bubba has fought 5 rounds, but I wouldn't be surprised. So there's a lot of question marks there too. But these guys are athletes. They're in amazing shape. I'm pretty sure that, I mean, you would hope they come prepared for 5 rounds. Oh man, I'm gonna go Brendan, man. I think him beating Chris Wade is a baseline for him leading, but this will be his tournament. I think a lot of people are leading Bubba Jenkins, but I'm gonna go with the European.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I've gone back and forth on it a lot. I'm going to go and take Bubba Jenkins just for shits and gigs. If you're going to go and take Brendan, I'll take Bubba Jenkins.
I respect your pick because he could very well win this fight. I think it's a pick 'em fight.
Absolutely. I mean, dude was a fucking still is an excellent wrestler. Obviously, he had a great collegiate base. He's kind of, what's interesting is I saw him talk about the differences in wrestling, like freestyle versus
folk style.
Yeah, it was like a really good interview. I would encourage people to go ahead and give it I can't remember who he did it with, but I'm sure you can find it just by Googling Bubba Jenkins talking about freestyle wrestling. But, yeah, dude, I like this kid a lot. I say kid, he's 34, but, I like his base a lot, and I think that he's great wrestling, and I think he's gonna go out here and put on a show, dude. I mean, I've actually been watching, PFL has their own version of Embedded, if you guys have not seen it. Comes off like a great dude. I saw that, like, he's showing off, like, his like, wrestling medals and championships, and he's like, and up here, I'm gonna put the fucking boat right here.
I really thought about going Bubba Jenkins, man, but it's really a pick 'em fight. But I think the first Wade win was a big one, and he I think that's gonna be the factor, man. I think Brendan's gone prepared. He's learned his lesson. He's probably brought in some wrestlers to help him during these camps, and like I said, notoriously, the Englishmen have struggled with wrestlers, and I think this is this time.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I am going to go take Bubba Jenkins, so it's going to be a fun fight, though. But next up, the heavyweights. Ante Delija?
That's a good attempt.
Delija taking on Matthijs, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Schaffel at heavyweight. Full disclosure, I do not know much about Matthijs. I don't. I know that he's a 7th seed. Obviously, he upset Juan Adams to get to here, knocked him out. Yeah, I mean, I do know a lot about Ante, especially considering he's coming off of that huge win over Renan Ferreira. I believe Renan Ferreira, if you guys do not know him, if I remember correctly, he's that cat who went ahead and submitted Verdum, right? Or beat Verdum, and then it had the weird thing.
Yep, that was him.
He's a good dude. Good dude, and Ante picked up the TKO win over him. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go take Ante Delija. I mean, full disclosure, like I said, I don't know much about Matthijs. The fact that they've already fought once and Ante knocked him out, right cross, I'm going to go and take him again. I mean, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
I'm going to say Buttigieg, man. Ante has some heavy hands. He's gotten a lot of knockouts in his time beating her, but he also has been knocked out once. But it was Bruno Cavazola, and Bruno Cavazola is a tough out, and that was his demon, so he avoided him this time around. Bruno Cavazola got taken out by Matthijs, so we won't have to deal with him this time around. So it's kind of looking like this is a tournament to win. So I think Ante is getting ready to hang up that nice big check in his house. Much love to the Croatian.
Much love to the Croatian. So same page there. I am really excited for this lightweight fight. We have a pair of UFC veterans in the lightweight finals. Stevie Ray taking on Olivier Aubameyang. Olivier Aubameyang, the Canadian gangster, revealed that this could actually be his retirement fight, depending on how things go. Which is a shame, but I get it. He's 33, going to be 34 soon. Probably wants to start a life outside of MMA. Stevie Ray, though, interesting guy. Like, he took 3 years off. He thought he did retire, came out of retirement, came to PFL. He lost to Alexander Martinez in his first fight, but then he goes out, submits Anthony Pettis. The rematch 2 months later, he beats him again by decision. What a story for him to come from behind, after being cut from the UFC, retiring, and to make it all the way to the finals. You gotta give him love. But as far as this fight goes, do you think he'll be able to continue his Cinderella run and defeat the Canadian gangster?
Look, I think this is another tough fight to pick. Obviously, this happens all the time with title fights. Stevie Ray obviously has come back, looked pretty solid, and gotten some good wins. And look, he beat a older, struggling Anthony Pettis twice. And he lost to Alex Martinez, who was a young kid but had an extensive amateur background. Alex Martinez did end up missing out in the playoff format because he lost to Ugan Mercedes, like you said. I think it's the time for the Canadian man. I think he's not going to retire. He's going to come in, he's going to get a win, and he's going to stick in the sport, man.
Yeah, same page, dude. I think this is his time. I think he's always been a guy that, like, in the UFC, I thought he came in a bit early. But even when he was a bit early, he still beat some really good dudes. Evan Dunham, Drew Dober, Anthony Rocco Martin. Like, he beat some good-ass dudes, but then I thought he came in a bit early. He just seemed... And then he had, like, a really tough run, too. I mean, dude, like, this were his final... we can just fucking run, like, his last, 7 fights in the promotion. Drew Dober, Anthony Rocco Martin, Evan Dunham, Alexander Hernandez, Gilbert Burns, Arman Sarukian.
Tough fights.
That is a gauntlet, dude. That's a gauntlet. And he was competitive with Hernandez. He was competitive with Burns and even Sarukian, Like, he had some moments in that fight. It wasn't like he was getting run over by these guys. You know what I mean? But then he got cut, and I thought it was a really bad cut at the time. And then he moved to PFL, and he's not lost since. I think this is his time. I think he's go out there, get $1 million, and we'll see what happens next with him. I hope he's not retire, but...
I mean, Josh, and he beat some fucking good guys in the PFL. Like, he beat Alex Martinez, who's like a big prospect for them. Hausch Manfield, who won the tournament previously. Natan Scholl, who I think beat Hausch Manfield in the way up. I could be wrong.
I think so.
He might have not. But still, he's another good guy in there. So, I mean, he's looking really, really good. Like, he is setting himself in a position to beat Stevie Ray with really good fucking wins. And he has a solid jiu-jitsu game, too. So.
Yeah, man. I don't know, man. Like, he's had a hell of a run, and I really hope he caps it off here. Like, the cool thing about this lightweight fight is that, like, not only they have roots in the UFC, but, like, these are two guys who I felt like they got a bit of a rough shake, man. I don't think they got a fair shake in the UFC. And for them to fight their way to the finals, have $1 million on the line, like, either way, I'll be cool with whoever wins. But I do think it's the Canadian gangster. I think it's his moment. Also on the card with the welterweights.
It is an easy one for me.
Same page. Sadu Sai taking on Delano Taylor. Sadu Sai's the 2 seed, easily got here. Delano Taylor was a late replacement. Came in on, like, fight week in London to face Rory McDonald, knocked him out the first round. Rory immediately retired. Yeah, man, I think this one's been pretty lopsided. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, man.
We're on the same page. Yeah.
Look, Sadusi's record is deceiving as fuck, Josh. It's 12-6, but let me tell you, this guy is very good. He's 6-4 in the promotion, but he's put it together this season, and he's one of the guys he comes out of Extreme Couture, and a guy who really put me on him after he kind of started putting it together, and I heard it very recently, was Sean Strickland. He's like, dude, one of the toughest motherfuckers in the gym, one of the hardest guys that I have to spar with is this guy named Susi, who's in the fucking tournament right now. Susi has some fucking power. He's very big. He has an 88-inch, and I saw in his last fight, not in his last fight, but his fight with Rory McDonald, man, he's using his reach very well, and he's learning how to maximize it because he has a Muay Thai / like kickboxing type style. And he has some heavy hands. He hasn't put guys out, but you see the visible damage he puts on his opponents. And I think he's going to give Delano Taylor some trouble. I think Delano Taylor, he got an impressive win over a old and aged very much Rory McDonald on short notice, and he got it. And he was doing good. He came in, he signed to the PFL in 2022, and he got some nice wins. Couldn't get past Magomed, but Magomed had won the tournament previously before Ray Cooper, and I mean it makes sense why he lost him. But I think it's Sanusi's time, man. You did not expect it. You look at the record, it doesn't seem like he's anything special, but let me tell you, man, this guy can fucking fight.
Yeah, he can fucking fight. I'm gonna go and pick him as well. I don't think this one, like, this kid is so talented, dude. And Delon, I'll give him credit, coming in, beating Rory on short notice, super impressive. But I'm gonna go take Sadusai. I think he's been, I don't know, he's just impressed me more, honestly. And it's kind of crazy because he's a guy that's like 35. This is what's awesome about the PFL. This is a guy that was 35 years old. Didn't have any big opportunities. When PFL started up, he went over there. He was 6-2, lost a couple fights, won some fights, had a draw, had a no contest, kept on working, kept on moving, and he got his way here to the finals. He's put it all together this year, and I think he's going to cap it off with $1 million and a win in the finals. So I'm going to go and take him. But we have one more fight to talk about. It's the light heavyweights. This one's going to be a banger regardless. Rob Wilkinson. Never in a million years would I expect the run that Rob Wilkinson is on, dude.
You got to give the guy so much fucking love and credit, though. It's so awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, he is a guy who went, 0-2 in the UFC? And to be fair, he lost to Sayer Bazarda, who is really, really good. And then he lost to Israel Adesanya. So there's no shame in losing those two guys. But guess what? He got cut after that. He got a raw deal. 2 fights against 2 absolute killers. Did some kickboxing. He's done some boxing. He's done some MMA. Came in this season, and he's putting guys lights out. They're not even being competitive with him. He's 3 straight knockouts. 2 of them coming in the first round. He's taking on Omari Akhmedov. Omari Akhmedov is another guy that, like, I said, what's kind of interesting? A theme of this card has been guys that did not get fair runs in the UFC, I thought. Yeah. Like, that's been a theme. Like, I feel like a lot of guys to talk about. Omari Akhmedov was a dude who had, like, 6-fight unbeaten streak. He beat Abdul Hazak Hassan, Tim Boach, Ian Heinisch, and then either draw with Marvin Vettori. He loses to Chris Weidman. He beats Tom Breeze, loses a split to Brad Tavares, gets cut. Like, oh, okay. He heads to PFL. He's been unbeaten since, 3 wins in a row, 2 of them coming by the way of finish. This is my most anticipated fight in the card. I'm really, really psyched for this one. How do you see it going?
Look, man, as much as I would love to see Rob Wilkinson win, I think he has a tough matchup. Styles make fights. Amari Akhmedov is going to come out here and take Rob Wilkinson instantly down, Josh, to take him out of his game. Now, at the same time, that doesn't mean Rob can't find a nice takedown in between, or Rob can find a knee in the takedown that leads to some punches and ends in the finish. I mean, he very much has that ability, and if he could keep the range and prevent the takedown and do some good counter wrestling, he could do it. But I just think against Amari Akhmedov, it's just not going to happen, man. I think it's just too tough of a matchup for him. It just didn't work out for him. It's just, I think, a misfortune. But that doesn't mean Rob Wilkinson can't do it. I mean, he very much has done it. I mean, like you said, he's put out multiple guys lights out. But this matchup, I think, is just too tough of one, man. I don't think he's been able to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on the same page. I'm going to go and take Amari Akhmedov. It's just a rough matchup for him. I mean, I love his run that he's been on right now. Never in a million years would I expect it. I think the fight's going to be a banger, and I hope, and I could see, Rob catching him, and if he does, that'd be dope.
He has 5 rounds to do it. I mean,
he does.
We've seen it. Huge. We've seen it this year. So, go for it, King.
Yeah, of course. So, but I am going to go ahead and take Omari Akhmedov. As far as the rest of the card goes, dude, there's a lot of good names in here, a lot of good fights. Which ones are you most looking forward to talking about outside of obviously the championship fights?
I mean, we kind of skipped over it when we were talking, but like snuck in between all the tournament fights. Julia Budd, Aspen Ladd getting signed to the PFL, taking on I guess in a way, somewhat of a legend right of the sport, Julia Budd, right? At least we're talking strictly women's MMA, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But Aspen coming in. I mean, things couldn't make weight, having lots of trouble losing fights. And, I mean, she's not going to have to cut weight like she did in the past. Can you make weight and, get a nice W here over a legend like Julia Budd? And if she does, man, I mean, that's a nice way, 1, to start off your PFL career, and 2, getting one back now that you're outside of UC, be like, look, I have a level and my level is good. I just beat Julia Budd. You guys made a mistake by not keeping me around. So I think there's a lot riding on that fight, and for Julie, I mean, she needs a win. Obviously, she's 1-1 right now, but I mean, she could very much beat Aspinall here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This is a very interesting fight. I'm happy they put him on the pay-per-view because they can just as easily build. Because like Kayla Harrison, her next season, well, let me rephrase, her next year, she's not going to be a part of the season. So, I mean, shit, winner of this is like an easy fight to book. Especially if PFL decides they want to introduce like championships or something like that, like just like an easy thing to do in my opinion. I'm surprised PFL has not done this. Is they can easily do tournaments and they can also have champions and have at the end of after each season ends, they can have the tournament champion fight the actual champion. That could be too much, but I don't know. They can easily do that here with Kayla Harrison versus the winner of Aspen Ladd versus Julia Budd for like the women's featherweight title. But anyways, I digress. That could be a banger of a fight. Marlon Moraes versus Shayna Moraes. We did talk about this when it got announced that I can't think of Shane Burgos was out of this card. I mean, it's better matchmaking. Should be fun. That's on the prelims. Prelims are like low key stacked. Not even low key. They're just straight up fucking stacked. Because we have Marlon Moraes, Shayna Moraes. Then we have Nathan Schlutt taking on Jeremy Stevens. Jeremy Stevens, he's 1-1 in the PFL, but both fights have been fucking bangers against Miles Price and Clay Collard. So that should be fun. Magomed Magomedov taking on, Magomedov taking on Gleason Tebow. Should be a lot of fun. And then obviously, Bagagio Ali Walsh, the grandson of Muhammad Ali, making his amateur debut. So, there's a little bit of something for everyone on this card, dude. I mean, I think it's a really, really fun card. Like, if PFL were to do a pay-per-view, this is probably the way to do it. But, any of the closing thoughts on this card before we move on to the news?
I mean, they're doing it right, man. They're doing right. Is this Nico's brother? Is this Nico's cousin, or is it one of the other kids from another sibling?
I believe it's Nico's, it could be his brother, actually. I don't know. Yeah, his brother.
Interesting.
He's the older brother of, Nico Ali Walsh.
One said, fuck boxing, I'm going to do MMA, where the money's not at.
Hey, I hope he does well. It'll be fun.
Respect.
But, anyways, time to move on to the news because you do got a fair bit of it. Misfits Boxing 3 happened last Saturday night on DAZN, and there was a lot of talk about coming out of this card, dude. I'd say it was like, the main event was excellent between Dean the Great and Wally Sharks. That was an absolute banger of fight. Brandon Buckingham picked up a win over Ice Poseidon. That was entertaining. I'd say probably the biggest news for the show for us to talk about is Greg Hardy. Dude, this guy, Greg Hardy and Shannon the Cannon Briggs.
Let's go, champ! Let's go, champ!
Dude, okay, so if you guys did not watch the card, which you really should, because I'm pretty sure DAZN put up all the fights. For free, which is awesome. Greg Hardy goes out there. He's facing Hakeem Rockman Jr. Took the fight on like 8 days notice, 9 days notice, something like that. Goes out there, beats the dog shit out of him. Granted, he did have 100-pound weight advantage.
But heavyweight, though. He can have that.
Exactly. He beat the dog shit out of him, dropped him, gets on the mic. He cuts like him and Shannon Briggs. They like leave the. I don't remember what he said in like his post-fight speech or whatever, but he leaves there, goes to the back, and does like the interview with the press people. And Shannon Briggs behind him. It's like a 1990s style WWE promo. Greg Hardy's like, I want all of them. Give me Tyson Fury, Tommy Fury. I want them all. And Shannon Briggs in the back. He's like, yeah, give them all. Like,
let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. The background too.
It was literally, dude. If you fucking told me it was if I closed my eyes and you told me it was Jimmy Hart and Hulk Hogan, I would have believed it. Like it was.
I loved it, man.
Yeah, it was great. What are your thoughts on ultimately the card as a whole and just like that? That was an awesome thing. The Greg Hardy is built for this, dude.
I mean, it's a perfect match. First of all, those two guys are perfect for each other, right? As far as like the dynamic and everything. Like there's no one else you could have done, I think. And Greg Hardy, man, he's doing it right, coming in, and I had a feeling this was going to happen, Josh, because I was like, dude, he's so much bigger. Unless Hakeem Rockman comes in with a really good plan in that short amount of rounds, Greg Hardy could get him out quick, and Greg still had energy for more rounds. It was only 4 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, that's easy for him. I mean, the guy's 4 3-minute rounds. He's used to fighting for 15 minutes in the UFC. I mean, come on, man.
No, you're right. But boxing cardio different than MMA cardio. We've had this conversation.
That's true. That's true. But I feel like this kind of thing is more beneficial to him anyway. I mean, but, yeah, I mean, shit, dude. I was super impressed. Super impressed with ultimately him picking up the win and just, look, Greg Hardy was a controversial guy in the UFC run. There's no doubt about it. And he showed moments and he showed potential. Maybe boxing in this kind of, in the weird way that boxing is going right now, this was the best case scenario for him. Maybe this is what he should have been doing the whole time. I mean, he seems like a natural out there. Not only in the ring, but outside the ring and talking and almost building up a persona with himself and Shane Buchanan. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Any closing thoughts on the card before we kind of move on, though?
I mean, like you said, the banger versus the main event was a banger. I think like a lot of the matches kind of went the way you expected them. Josh Rudder beat Chase Moore, which I kind of thought would go down. Took him a little bit to get there, but I wasn't surprised with the result. King Kenny finally getting I'd say a justified and proper win, right? Mm-hmm. He needed that. Tommy getting one over PJ on short notice, but we kind of expected that too.
Yeah.
And then like you said, Brandon Buckingham kind of thought that was going to happen there, and then the weird start to the night with the DQ for excessive holding.
Yeah, that was bizarre. But anyways, man, I think everything pretty much went the way we expect. We got to go ahead and give a shout out to our boy though, Overflow PJ, stepping in there, short notice.
But by the way, Josh, do you think Vitor Belfort has seen Markman Jr. is cursed?
Probably.
Tried to make it 2 times in a row, hasn't worked. He was actually supposed to fight Chad Dawson at one point and try to combat that. Didn't happen either.
Oh shit, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I forgot they even booked that.
But then, the whole thing got.
The triad. Yeah, we're never going to see that again. But anyways, yeah, man, this is a fun card though. Very fun card. I was not shocked at anything, but still a lot of fun, man. So, anyways, also on that card, we did get an announcement. Now, we kind of knew that KSI was going to announce his fight. Mm-hmm. And after the way things went, the previous day at the weigh-ins, where KSI got into an altercation with Dylan Dan, Dylan Dan's got to do a fight with Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor. I mean, a lot going on there. We kind of knew the way things were going to go, but they did make it official. KSI, Dylan Dan, it's January, main event, pay-per-view on DAZN. Is it the right fight to make? Give me your thoughts on it.
I mean, I'm down. I think Dylan has some clout, which is a big thing when it comes to this whole boxing thing. I think he has some attention on him. People are going to watch it because they want to see Dylan lose, I think. I'm perfectly okay with it. It's not necessarily what we wanted, because I think to an extent we want to see JJ challenge, because we see Jake challenging himself, but we know that's the matchup we want to see. We know that's what these guys are building up for, and that's the one big matchup we want in and what we assume will probably be Europe and England, and in a big arena in the O2 or shit. JJ and the Seven Crew have literally filled the stadium before. So, these guys are trying to build up a big event. I don't got no issue with it, because they're trying to get JJ back in the mix. JJ's been so busy with music and everything, and he's trying to get in shape. He's doing the Misfits thing. He's still being a businessman while being an athlete, which is very hard. And credit to Jake, because Jake has done the same thing with his podcast and some other business he's done, being a promoter now. Both of them have been doing their thing, but Jake's been super active, hasn't stopped boxing. He's getting better at a rapid rate, like we mentioned in the room, Josh. And it's nice to see JJ having, I'd say, a decently fast turnaround.
Yeah. For sure. August to January is pretty good.
But as far as selling the match and everything, they're going to be able to sell this very well, and there's stuff behind it. And if they make a good undercard, which I'm sure these guys will, because they're a lot of these guys are building up their brand. I think there's potential here.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of hype, come on, man. Who doesn't want to see Dylan Dan get his ass kicked? Come on. It is pretty easy to book in that sort of way. Yeah, like I said, I kind of wanted to see JJ challenge himself more, but this will be fun. I don't got any problems with it, so it'll be fun at least. We did also get another fight announcement. This one's not YouTube boxing related, but it is boxing related, and we finally, Angel. I've been worried. Like I said, I've said that I thought we were going down a really bad path with the way big boxing matches have gone lately. Tyson Fury, Usyk / AJ not coming together. Crawford Spence not coming together. I mean, there's other ones as well, but we finally got one. Gervonta Davis, Tank Davis, taking on Ryan Garcia, likely in April. They're gonna each have one tune-up fight in January, and then they're gonna go at it.
By the way, just the fact that like we don't question it, but it's like, dude, these guys need to have a match beforehand, knowing that they're gonna win, which is just like, wow. You know what I mean?
So boxing, dude.
It's so boxing. It almost seems so scripted, but it's not. You know what I mean? Even though at times it seems like it. I mean, people have doubts, people have questions, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but look, dude, I am so psyched for this one. I'm so excited for this fight. And look, and I saw that even Ryan was talking about. He's like, boxing needed this. Like, we've had some bad shit going on lately, and I couldn't be happier that they're going to do it.
The ball's on Ryan, by the way. You got to give the guy respect. I mean, he's been calling for it. He's been calling it forever. That means either he sees something or he wants that money. But
I don't know.
He's been calling it forever, though.
He has. And I think a lot of people that have talked about the fight have, like, oh, Tank's going to fuck him up. I'm like, dude, Ryan has a very good chance of winning this fight.
He has speed, which is a good way to deal to an extent with power. And range. But at the same time, range is, I mean, Tank is probably his whole fight had to fight against range. I mean, we're not going to get into the preview, but, just to have a little small talk there about it.
Yeah, of course. We don't want to talk too much about this because obviously we're going to be talking about it next April, but, yeah, man. I'm super psyched for that one, and I'm surprised they actually made it. So, it is a win for boxing right there. So,
hey, man, awesome. But that division is flowing though. I mean, we see Haney, Teofimo, Shakur, and I mean, didn't they make mandatory Shakur versus Haney?
No. They made Shakur versus Isaac Cruz,
which is a banger.
Absolutely. That's another one.
There's movement there. There's movement there. I think that particular division is moving well. They're going in the proper direction. Other divisions, a different story.
Yeah, but at least the lightweight division is moving, so that's nice. But we have we had a couple of not really announcements, but this one's not an announcement, but like we got something pretty set in stone for John Jones finally. And I debated even putting this in the chat because like we've been talking about this for 2 fucking years. Anyways, John Jones, he's ready to go. The UFC is finally pulling the trigger. John Jones, March, according to multiple reports, UFC 285. He's going to be fighting. Who he will be fighting is still not known, but we have a couple of names. They're trying to make Ngannou. Now, Ngannou, they're not sure if A, he'll be ready, and B, that the contract is sorted out by then. That's a huge if. I honestly don't think he'll be fighting Ngannou. I think there's too many complications. I don't think they're going to be able to figure it out within the next 4 months. Probably within the next 2 months because they'll have to give him like a training camp. So they have 2 months to figure it out. I don't think they will. They also have Curtis Blades. They apparently think that Curtis Blades could be the backup. If Curtis Blades doesn't want to accept, then they have Cyril Gahn. Also, they have a backup for the backup.
Yeah. And Stipe is out of the
equation. Which,
I mean, now there's precedent for it now, though.
Yeah. And look, I think that it's the right move. I think it's the absolutely 100% correct move. I've said since the beginning that if they did not give the fight to Ngannou, they should have just pulled the fucking trigger on Curtis. And I don't know why they've waited so long to do this, but I'm happy that they're finally going to go ahead and do it. So, I mean, what do you think about this? And ultimately, is it the right decision? Then kind of foregoing Stipe and ultimately putting Jones in a position where he's finally going to get a fight.
I think it was smart, man. They were like, fuck it. The options aren't working, but there's good choices still, and we need to accept that fact. And it's John Jones, and he's going to sell. I think that's the kind of reasoning they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same. Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy they're finally going to pull the fucking trigger, dude. I really am. because as much as I'm finally at a point where I've let it known that, like, I'm not the biggest John Jones guy. I know, crazy, but because it's really hard to overlook the performance-enhancing drug stuff and the stuff that he does outside of the cage. It's really hard to overlook it, but even I'm missing John Jones in the cage, man. Like, I want to see him get back in there, and I'm happy that they're finally pulling the fucking trigger, and dude, like, wouldn't it be some shit after all these years? Daniel Cormier, Shogun Rua, Rampage Jackson, fucking Lyoto Machida, Vitor Belfort. Name after name after name. Alexander Gustafsson. Name after name after name. It's Curtis Blades who ends John Jones's run. And there's a damn good possibility of that happening. In fact, I'd favor it to happen if that fight gets made. But yeah, it's the right move. But obviously, we still, there's no point in even really talking about this outside of the fact that we just know that John's gonna be fighting in March, finally. But we do have an official set in stone announcement. In fact, it's 2 fight announcements, and it's honestly big. This is basically Scott Coker and Bellator dropping their balls on the table and just going like, hey, we're fucking here. Like, we see one is doing some stuff on Prime. We see that these other guys are getting momentum. Guess what, motherfuckers? We're still the number 2. We're still right there. We might even be number 1. That's how damn good we are. Because Bellator 290 will be going down on CBS. It is going to be the first time that MMA will be nationally broadcast on because obviously ESPN's a big deal, obviously, but and Fox is a big deal, but CBS is one of the core programming channels on the planet. You know what I mean? At least in North America, anyways. First time since Strikeforce. First time in 12 years that MMA will be broadcast on the channel to a nationally televised audience, and they're going to bring Fedor Emelianenko his retirement fight against Ryan Bader, and they're also going to be bringing Vadim Nemkov versus Yoel Romero for the light heavyweight title on the same night. What do you think? Thoughts on this announcement? What are your thoughts on both of these fights individually? And is it the right move for them to make their Bellator, CBS debut with these fights?
I mean, yeah, I think it is. You have a legend of the sport. You have Ryan Bader, who's also, American versus Russian always sells well. Let's just say it as it is, right? Mm-hmm. And Bader's looked great. He's looked great at heavyweight. He's going to be defending his title. Fedor wants to get one back, and Fedor's doing this on his own terms. This isn't Bellator pushing this on Fedor. Fedor wants this fight. Fedor wants to do this. I think that's the big thing too that we need to think about to accept, because I think a lot of times people think these old, a lot of times older fighters are pushed into situations and their retirements are things that are just shitty.
Frankie Edgar.
Yeah, and Fedor wants this. And look, Fedor's won his last 2 fights. Anything could have happened. He's old. Let's be honest. He's 46. He's damn near 50. He's a damn near 50-year-old man. He's the age of our parents. Yeah. And or at least close. But he's still here, man. In some capacities, he still has some abilities. He still has power. He still has options. And I think being a heavyweight is a good thing for him, because if Fedor was a 205er or a 185er, I think we'd be really having a hard time thinking that he has a possibility, right? But the thing is, there's a possibility. We're not going to get into the actual analysis right now. But yeah, and obviously Nemkov always performs. And Yoel Romero, he's one of the most explosive guys you could have in that position. He's talking about gold. He set these goals for himself that he wants to complete, like getting the 205 title and going down to 185 and getting the title there. And he has that ability. And he's an alien. He's 45 years old, damn near the same age as Fedor, just started a little later. Mm-hmm. And he's a funny guy. He can sell fights very well. Yeah, I think this is done very, very well. And yeah, I mean, this is what Fedor wants. This is what Fedor's going to get. And I think there's no better way to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And you laid it out really, really well there. This is not a fight that they forced on Fedor. Fedor's just that dude that even at his age, he wants the big challenges. He wants to challenge himself even in his final fight. Same thing for Yoel Romero. And for at least in the case of Fedor, he said that, I was really, really sick heading into that first fight. My team told me to, Fedor is that dude. Yeah, they told him to pull out. He said no. He said, I'm going to pull out of fights, and he was so sick, couldn't train. Went out there and got annihilated at the first punch that, Bader threw. So that's the way it goes sometimes. I like the fight. I think that, here's the awesome part too. So they're putting a big name and they got a big opportunity here. And Bellator, here's something that they've always done well. Bellator is off and they're on sometimes. Sometimes they'll have big fights and they don't get big attention, or sometimes they'll put on freak show fights and they'll get fucking 3 million viewers. They're really, really weird in that way. But whenever they have a big show And this is the biggest show Bellator will ever do. Don't mistake it. They've had big ratings with Kimbo Slice versus fucking Dada 5000 or whatever. They had the Ken Shamrock fight. They've had Tito on their tail. They've had some big names in big pay-per-view. Not pay-per-view, but just big numbers in general. This is their biggest moment. I guarantee you're going to see Aaron Pico on this thing. You're going to see one of the Pitbull brothers on this card. You're going to see,
maybe AJ.
Maybe AJ, depending on how fast turnaround he wants to make. Like, they're going to load this fucking thing up, and this card's going to be it's going to be card of the year contention. I guarantee you it.
I have a very important question, Josh.
Yeah.
Here.
Go ahead.
If Fedor wins, what does this do for his legacy?
I mean, I already think Fedor's the GOAT, so for me, he can't go up any higher, but for
it makes it more easy. It makes it just easier, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like to me, we talked about it in the green room. It's kind of like how Mighty Mouse is fighting now in 1, and he's winning fights up at a weight class, but it's all house money at this point. He's already a GOAT, you know what I mean? This was just, like, for Fedor to go out there and just knock out Bader, or even beat him in any capacity. That is unbelievable. Like, I understand Bader is older, and I think the fact that Bader's older and the fact that he's lost a couple of fights recently makes us believe more that this will be competitive. But, yeah, for him to just go out there and beat him in any way, in any facet, would be truly incredible, and it would do a lot of wonders for his legacy, because for so long, we've kind of talked about, like, how Fedor is fighting on too long and past his age. It's kind of like I've always kind of equated him to kind of the MMA version of Roy Jones Jr. in a way. Like, in his prime, he was unbeatable, but he stayed around too long, and he had a couple big losses. Fedor right now he's put a couple of fights together, and for him to cap it off with a championship at 45, you don't see that. And
you never go out on top.
Yeah, and you kind of make it in a way to where, like, all the talk about him staying around too long, guess what, motherfucker? He stayed around the right time. You know what I mean? He has a chance to go out there and get his George Foreman moment. Going out there and becoming champion at fucking 45. So, for him to have that chance, and like I said, I'm hyped for this card as a whole, because it's on CBS. They're also going to put it on Paramount Plus for anybody that has that. Like, they're doing this right way, man. So I'm very psyched for that one. Any other thoughts on the fights, that card in general, or anything else before we close out?
I mean, there's still a lot, man. It needs to be filled out and everything, but man, they're doing it right, and that's a big fight right there, man. That's the send off of one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in many people's eyes ever. I mean, there's that deserves a lot of attention. If you love this sport and you appreciate it at its most, its best, you will be watching that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. I am very excited for this one. I'm very excited for that card. Overall, I hope you guys did enjoy the show. I thought it was a pretty good one. Went longer than I expected, honestly, given the lack of, like, MMA this week. But, I'm at Josh Evanoff on Twitter. He's at AngelKing_01 at Courtside Sound for all things relating to the show. Once again, code Soundoff at checkout for both ELYXR and Rogue Energy. Fantastic sponsor of the show. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace and butt grease. Mouse click.